You're listening to the Dispassionate ADF Veteran's Voice. Each episode is generated and narrated using artificial intelligence, specifically Google's Notebook LM, drawing from official records like the Royal Commission Final Report, government strategies, inquiry reports, and lived experience accounts. The narration is delivered in American accents, as that is all that is available in this emerging AI tool. Don't let that distract you. This isn't the voice of any one veteran or organisation. It's Australia's veterans' story, told through evidence, not opinion. Here are your hosts.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're navigating something really complex, the journey from military service back into civilian life. And we're zeroing in on, well, probably one of the toughest parts, finding stable work and achieving financial security. Our sources today give us this really interesting view. We're blending insights from over 100 years of Australian repatriation history with some sharp, very current findings from a royal commission looking at veteran well-being. So our mission really is to unpack the big challenges veterans and their families run into trying to get financially stable, and how the system is, sometimes struggling to translate those really unique military skills into jobs people can actually get.
Yeah, and this isn't just, an employment issue. It's much deeper. Financial well-being is absolutely core to a veteran's overall success in transitioning. It directly impacts their independence, their quality of life. And the research is, it's crystal clear on this. Employment isn't just about the money. It gives crucial structure, restores a sense of purpose, and it's very positively linked to better mental health outcomes.
Okay, right. So let's maybe unpack the history first. This whole concept of repatriation, it feels quite specific. To really get the current picture, we kind of need to look back, don't we?
Absolutely, you really do. The impact of the Gallipoli campaign back in 1915, it was devastating. And that devastation, it really pushed the public and eventually the government to formally recognize, an obligation to veterans and their families. That public feeling was pretty immediate and pretty strong. It led straight to the Australian Soldiers' Repatriation Act in 1917. That was really the first big legislative step trying to put some government force behind supporting the wounded.
Okay, Section 1 then. That long history of financial support and those early challenges.
So in those very early days, the focus of the Repatriation Department was very practical. Immediate vocational support, teaching skills, trying to get guys into jobs. There's this great little anecdote about Arthur McCallum I came across. He was literally given basic tools, cans, a frying pan, utensils, just to help him get stable work with the Roads Board. It just shows that really direct material investment aimed squarely at sparking some immediate financial independence.
That's fascinating, really tangible help. But reading some of the reports from the troop ships coming home, you see this tension almost immediately. Some commanders sounded really positive, saying the men were keen after hearing about the War Pensions Act provisions. Ready to go.
But then you get the other side, that internal worry. Lieutenant Colonel Emley, for instance, he worried the high expectations were just setting people up to fail. He mentioned interest in repat was acute, right? Really high. But he feared, and this is a direct quote, that because everybody's expecting everything to be done for them, the result would just be stagnation or disillusionment when they got back. That gap, expectation versus the cold, hard reality.
Yeah.
It feels like a constant thread in the veteran experience, even then.
And this is where it gets really interesting for me, watching how that safety net sort of slowly, piece by piece, gets bigger over time.
It really had to. By 1936, they brought in the means-tested service pension. This was for what they called burnt-out diggers guys who just couldn't work anymore. And then the 1943 Repatriation Act, that was a huge deal. It boosted war pensions significantly, but also mandated preference for veterans in public service jobs.
Which then got extended.
Yeah, 2 years later, 1945, extended to all employers. But maybe the most crucial change, financially speaking, was easing the onus of proof rules. It meant the commission had to act with substantial justice. Basically, give the applicant the benefit of any reasonable doubt in their claim.
Okay.
That was a game changer for actually getting access to financial help. Made it easier.
Okay, let's jump forward. Section 2. The modern employment crisis and this whole skills translation problem. So fast forward to now. We understand that link between stability and mental health much better, but that initial shock of transition, it's still really profound for many. Leaving the military, it often means instability, right? A loss of identity, loss of purpose. The military is what some sociologists call a total institution.
Highly structured.
Exactly. Life is scheduled, routinized. So leaving feels like this well, abrupt fall for many.
And that fall often hits hardest when they start looking for work. The core paradox, the strange thing modern veterans talk about is this. Recruiters might tell them their specialized military skills, their qualifications, will make them highly employable out here in the civilian world.
Which sounds logical, doesn't it? They're disciplined, trained, often great leaders. But you're saying that's not always the reality they find.
Often not, no. In reality, they report back that it's not as simple as that.
Yeah.
And worse, some veterans report facing outright discrimination. Imagine being told by a potential employer that hiring a combat veteran is seen as a liability.
Oh,
It's a devastating blow, not just to their confidence, obviously, but to their actual ability to, provide for their family.
right. So what are the specific strategies now trying to fix this translation gap, the stigma? What's being done?
Well, a big focus now is on getting formal civilian recognition for what they've learned. So taking New South Wales, their veteran strategy, it includes support for veterans and their partners to get actual formal qualifications. A key program is TAFE, NSW Ranks to Recognition.
TAFE being the technical and further education system.
Exactly. It helps veterans get those formal civilian qualifications. They do skills assessments, and crucially, RPL recognition of prior learning. That's the mechanism, the key thing for actually validating military training in a way the civilian job market understands.
And the government's response, post-Royal Commission, seems to be trying to leverage the public sector, too. Recommendation 85 pushes for prioritizing jobs for ex-serving members in public agencies, especially jobs that kind of align with military experience, like health, justice, police, corrections.
Makes sense.
And we're also seeing things like the Expanded Partner Employment Assistance Program, PAAP.
Which is important, right?
Yep.
It acknowledges that financial health isn't just about the veteran's job, it's the whole family unit.
Exactly right. And if you connect that employment stability back to the bigger picture, it really highlights the economic value. Stable work is just such a powerful protective factor against poor mental health. You look at models like Individual Placement Support, IPS.
What's that?
It's a model specifically designed to help individuals with mental illness find and keep jobs. And the long-term return on investment, the ROI, it's solid, around 2.3. So getting a veteran into stable, meaningful work isn't just good for them, it's a measurable economic investment in their lifelong well-being. That ROI really drives home how vital financial stability is. But even if a veteran does get that stable job, we need to remember that stability is tied up with the whole family's financial health.
Which brings us to another finding, doesn't it? The systemic hurdles within the compensation system itself, Section 3, system complexity and the financial burden on families.
Yeah, the sources point out that defense seems to have this, well, old-fashioned understanding of the financial well-being of the family. It sort of assumes a one breadwinner model, which just doesn't reflect how most families operate today.
Precisely. And because of that outdated view, the family often carries this huge emotional and financial load, but without getting the support tailored to their needs. And that burden just gets heavier because the whole entitlement system itself is so complex.
But hang on, if the Australian system is generally seen as generous, compared to standard workers' comp, why does this fragmentation still exist? Why hasn't this timeline issue just been fixed?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It comes down to years and years of different laws being layered on top of each other.
Yeah.
The system is generous overall, yes, but because it's fragmented, you can have two veterans with the exact same injury getting vastly different levels of support. And it all depends on which specific act applies to them, which is basically decided by when they served.
Right.
So veterans end up feeling, and they've said this, rewarded or punished for the timing of their service. It creates this huge sense of inequity and confusion.
And that inequity, it feels like it's made worse by maybe a lack of financial preparedness for handling these benefits when they do come through. We talk about pensions or lump sums, but are veterans actually equipped to manage potentially large amounts of money?
That's a really critical missing piece.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. If the goal is financial well-being, which includes having the judgment to make appropriate monetary decisions, as the sources put it, then we need to be providing proper financial management training alongside the benefits. Otherwise, you're potentially handing over significant capital or setting up complex lifelong payments without making sure the person has the tools to manage it effectively, let alone plan for, growth or future security.
And this complexity, it seems to spill over into the actual claims process itself, causing immense emotional distress. The evidence we looked at describes the process run by DVA, the Department of Veterans Affairs, as often being re-traumatizing, sometimes even contributing to worsening mental health conditions or, sadly, even suicidal thoughts.
The human cost of delays in that system is just massive, both financially and emotionally. There are these harrowing stories, veterans waiting years for a claim decision, and in that incredibly stressful waiting period, being told to just go to CenturyLink.
The General Welfare Agency.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because their DVA claim is still stuck somewhere in the pipeline. That kind of experience, that lack of swift, joined-up support, it just breeds deep distrust in the whole system.
So to try and fix these legislative problems and the trauma they can cause, what are the main reform efforts focused on now?
Simplification and harmonization. Those are the big goals. They're trying to rationalize the benefits, move towards a single test for liability. And the aim is to eventually merge everything into just two main compensation and rehabilitation schemes. The target date for that is July 2025.
Okay.
Which should, in theory, reduce that problem of being punished for timing.
And crucially, it looks like the reforms are also trying to better support the family unit and make the claims process less adversarial.
Absolutely. Recommendation 15.2, for example, it aims to simplify and harmonize education payments for kids, extending eligibility so it covers children up to age 19 if they're still in secondary school.
That makes sense.
And recommendation 12.2 is also key. It calls for DVA to actually provide direct help with lodging primary claims. The idea is to reduce how much veterans have to rely on outside advocates, sometimes expensive ones, just to get through that initial, often really complex paperwork.
So making the system more veteran-centric.
That's the goal, truly veteran-centric.
All right, let's wrap this up. We've covered quite a journey today, from that initial repat moment after Gallipoli, through the very modern struggles with the translating skills, fighting stigma in the job market, right up to the tangled mess of a compensation system that, while often well-intentioned, can put this huge burden on families and sometimes lacks that basic financial literacy support needed for real stability.
Yeah, the big shift we're seeing or hoping to see is away from just managing illness or injury and towards this idea of lifetime well-being, a model that's genuinely veteran-centric based on their actual needs and backed by evidence. And this model, quite rightly, sees financial well-being as more than just having an income. It's about material security, yes, but also opportunities for financial growth and, like we discussed, having the judgment, the skills to make good financial decisions. So maybe we can leave you, the listener, with this thought to chew on. We know that getting into seamless, stigma-free employment gives people vital purpose and structure. We know the research says that's highly protective for mental health. We also know that delays and complexity in the compensation system actively cause distress, even trauma. So looking ahead for future veterans, what's the most crucial part of achieving real financial well-being? Is it perfecting that complex compensation system after the fact? Or is it putting maximum effort into creating those smooth, stigma-free pathways into meaningful work right from the moment they transition out? And maybe a related question. How can these newer place-based approaches, using local community groups, different kinds of governance, best deliver that essential material and social support, especially for veterans and families who live far away from the big support hubs? Really makes you think about the balance, doesn't it, between prevention and cure when it comes to financial security after service.
You've just heard a conversation built and presented entirely by AI from official sources. No speculation, no shortcuts. From Royal Commission findings to lived experience, we're unpacking the veteran ecosystem. If this episode helped you make sense of the system or gave voice to something you've felt but couldn't name, consider subscribing and liking the channel. That way, you'll be notified when the next episode drops. Send a link to a mate if you think they might benefit from synthesizing the massive information too. We'll upload at least one a week, each tackling a major issue with clarity, dignity, and zero spin. There will be 10 main episodes and many more spin-offs. This isn't just a podcast. It's clarity that is easy to consume and will help to mobilize those who really care.